we're back. Thank you for visiting me at the Critics Clinic to get your prescription for all things movie and entertainment. I'm here to talk about the very controversial, the much talked about Snow White live action released by Disney this weekend. Before we do anything else, click that subscribe button below, comment on this video, like this video, do that to all my other videos if you so choose. The other thing, if you don't want any spoilers, which this is going to be a pretty glossed over plot because it's a well-known story, but if you don't want spoilers, I'll post the time below that you can fast forward to my honest review. Now getting into this stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot as Snow White and the Evil Queen, respectively, in the classic story of Snow White. Honestly, they don't really change a lot. The only thing I would say from the plot standpoint is that there was a lot of backlash, and I'll get to that with the casting. Basically, it's a story about a girl who's a princess. Her mother and her father die, the king and the queen. The evil queen moves in. She takes over the kingdom. Somehow makes Snow White a maid. They never really explain how that happens and how the kingdom will let that happen. But the evil queen turns the entire kingdom into her own personal army. She tries to kill, obviously, Snow White because a magic mirror, tells her she's the fairest now, and she has to kill her, and the queen is extremely vain and wants beauty all to herself. Snow White runs away. She almost gets killed by this huntsman hired by the queen. She finds 7 dwarfs. She befriends 7 dwarfs. They fall for her, and they're her best friends, and she falls for this character who's a Robin Hood type character who's fighting in honor of the one true king, which is Snow White's father, obviously, the previous king. So the evil queen turns into an evil witch with an evil apple, gives it to her, she falls asleep, true love's kiss wakes her back up, she comes back to the kingdom, she turns against the queen, she turns all the people against the queen gets sucked into the evil mirror and dies, and Snow White takes over and they live happily ever after. Again, I don't want to gloss over this plot, but I just assume most people that have seen movies know the plot of Snow White. It's a very historic movie, the first full color, full dialogue movie animated ever made in America. So I imagine you know the story of Snow White, Disney Snow White. So to my review, which is going to be more important for this actual video because that's what everyone's waiting for. No one cares about the story of Snow White. We know it. Really about the review, my 5 categories. We're going to start with cast. I said 2, 5. We're going to start with cast and crew, which is very controversial for this movie. It's really what I think was a lot of the backlash for this movie coming out was Rachel Zegler being cast as Snow White. I mean, I feel like I know why, but I didn't have an issue really with her being cast as Snow White, other than it being the name of the movie. And then Gal Gadot, obviously, she's in the news for a lot of different things going on overseas, getting some bad backlash for that. So there's a lot of backlash with the people that have been cast in this movie, unfortunately, that are overshadowing the actual movie. Rachel Zegler, I would say, I hope I don't sound crazy, I hope I don't sound ridiculous, but she actually did an incredible job. I can't hate on her. I've seen her in other stuff, obviously West Side Story, I've seen her on some Broadway stuff, so I know that she had a great voice. I just didn't know how well she would do in a Disney role. She did excellent. Her voice is phenomenal in this. Her vocal control was absolutely incredible. The acting parts were good as well because you have to think most of this movie, she's literally acting by herself with little CGI characters and green screen stuff because most of the movie takes place with either 7 dwarfs or other special effects. So kudos to her, especially a lot of those scenes where she's singing and interacting with dwarfs that aren't really there. So I'd say from that standpoint, she did great. She did excellent. Gal Gadot, I'll get to the music part in a second when I get to my category, because obviously this is a musical, so my musical category is going to be very big for this movie. But I would just say for cast and crew, obviously there was some issues and some other backlash with them not casting actual people for the roles of the 7 dwarfs. I'll get to that in terms of my production category as well. But I'd say I would stick to simply cast and crew, how the acting did. I'm actually going to give it a 2 out of 2. I think they did a great job. Rachel Zegler, truly, act's got to be hurting. She carried this entire movie. She came to act. She came to sing. She really carried the movie. And just based on her performance, it's a 2 out of 2. Plot, it's the exact same plot. I would say the only thing they changed, a lot of the backlash was Rachel Zegler being called Snow White, and she's a Latinx actress. They tried to explain it away at the beginning of the movie by saying, oh, they were in a horrible snowstorm and they had this pure white snow that fell that allowed them to have this child because they were stuck in the storm, so they named her Snow White. And I was like, that's weak, Disney. That's how they explained away her name and why they cast her in that role, which, again, I didn't have a problem with. But I would say from a plot standpoint, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 2, just because the story of Snow White to me is boring to begin with, and I'm a Disney adult, obviously, a Disney fanatic, and I love Disney, but Snow White to me has always been boring. Didn't really need a remake, but now that we have it, we'll move along with it. Now for the production value of this movie, this is going to be an interesting one. I would say it was tough because there are some parts that are amazing. The kingdom looks great. Disney's great at doing CGI kingdoms and castles and stuff like that. The forest, all that stuff was great. The set felt good. If I was just basing it on the set, I'd give it a 2 out of 2, but I'm not. We have to talk about the elephant in the room or the dwarfs in the room. They did not look great. I'm not going to lie to you. Those dang dwarfs. The CG, it was pretty rough, in my opinion. It felt like I was watching, and I'm also a gamer, so I felt like I was playing one of my video games, looking at the dwarfs, because they had such a stark contrast to how their skin and how they looked compared to seeing the real characters on the screen, because they would be right next to Rachel Ziegler, and it would just be such a contrast, because they would have like this almost like CGI looking skin. They looked very distorted. I get they're dwarfs, but that's not why they looked distorted. They just looked they looked abnormal, and you got used to it towards the end of the movie, but towards the beginning it was a very like, woo, this is hard to watch. So I would say it's going to be half and half, because the kingdoms, the sets, the trees, all this stuff, the special effects looked great. So I would give it a 2 out of 2 if it was based on that, but the dwarf really brought it down, so it's going to be a 1 out of 2. So right now we're at a 4. We're going to get to the most important category of the entire thing, the music. This is a musical, so you know how I feel. When it comes to my categories in music, if it's a musical, I'm going to go in real deep. I would say they pulled out all the stops, all the writers for this musical. And it's weird because it's not touted as a musical, but it 100% is a musical. They're using music to actually progress the story, and without the songs, you would be missing plot. Most of the plot actually is told by songs in this movie. It's 100% a musical. Most of the dialogue actually is them singing, for better or for worse. So for Rachel Ziegler, again, incredible voice. I can't say enough great things about her voice. She really shined in this movie. Phenomenal vocal control. I was talking to some of my friends who were singers, and they were just like, yeah, she did amazing. Like, her voice is just... And I want to say they recorded it the same way they did Wicked, because there were moments where she was like ad-libbing, and it wasn't like a recording. It was like... It was too hard to lip sync some of the vocals she was doing, so I feel like they were like overlaying her true recordings with the maybe like a studio recording, because it seemed live. It was excellent. Her singing was incredible, and her co-lead, the guy who played the guy, I'll post his name up here. I can't think of it. He actually did a good job too. He held his own against Rachel. Rachel's an incredible singer, so he held his own. He didn't do what she did. Did amazing. The dwarves sounded great in their songs. The only downside I would say is that Gal Gadot, man, she's a beautiful woman. She should really stick to that. She's not a singer. No matter how much auto-tune you do, it doesn't sound good. I would say her song, All Is Fair, I get it progresses the story and about what she's looking for and trying to kill Snow White, but it was bad. So like listening to her sing was actually uncomfortable. It was like watching someone undress. You just feel so uncomfortable doing it. You're like, should I be here listening to this? And it was so auto-tuned. It was so nasally and so out of range of her actual voice. It actually sounded horrible. To me, Disney should have done the same way they did with the Triton song from The Little Mermaid and just completely axed it. They didn't really need it. They could have just explained that away in some dialogue. Gal Gadot is not a singer, and honestly, that brought the whole musical down. But from a musical standpoint, it was actually incredible outside of Gal Gadot singing. Rachel Ziegler, again, she carried the movie. Her vocals were, you found yourself being captivated. Like every time she was singing on screen, you literally could not look away. Her voice is actually beautiful. Kudos to her. Don't believe the haters. Now my final category. I give it a 2 out of 2, obviously. I loved that part. So right now we're at a 6. Next, going to my final category, did I enjoy the movie? Again, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I hope I don't sound crazy, but I really enjoyed it. Again, got a lot of backlash, a lot of bad reviews early on because of the casting, because of a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. The movie, if you're going into it looking at it as a musical, I would say you're going to love it. Musical production's amazing. I did my impressions with my last movie, so I'm starting to do this now to kind of say what it reminds you of. This is definitely like Wicked hybrid mixed with like Disney Animated Studios' Wish, that movie. Those two together is exactly what this was. It was like watching a live action Wish. And I would say just some of the standout songs, When a Hand Meets a Hand, Waiting on a Wish, those are two of probably the best Disney songs I've ever heard. I know that's being very dramatic, but it was, music-wise, it was great. If you're wanting to see a musical, like Broadway quality, this felt like that. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, the acting was great, but the singing was phenomenal. The story was lackluster, but again, it's a plot that already exists from a previous animated film, so there's only so much they could do with that. It stayed very true to the original story, which was boring. Did I enjoy the movie? Yes, I could not look away when Rachel Ziegler was singing. Phenomenal. 2 out of 2. My prescription I give for this is an 8 out of 10. I definitely say go see it. I know the reviews are coming out are kind of bad because of the backlash. I would say go see this movie. Am I a little biased because I'm a Disney adult? Sure. But I still, am I biased because I'm also a Broadway person? Sure. But if you love Disney, if you love Broadway, if you love musicals, if you loved Wicked, I do think you will enjoy Snow White. Tell me what you think below. Tell me if you saw it yet, and we'll go from there. I'll be back for more. Thanks.